Hello and welcome back. So the scariest thing about Caine in the Amazing Digital Circus isn't that he can casually reshape existence on a whim like a deranged Looney Tunes character with access to Blender. Instead, the truly terrifying thing about Caine is that he just wants his humans to love him the way that he loves them, and that makes him way more tragic than people realize. At first, Caine just feels like this goofy, loud, slightly unsettling cartoon host, but the more you think about it, the more he starts to resemble a sad amusement park mascot who somehow achieved godhood and was immediately abandoned by management. He talks non-stop, he creates random adventures every 0.57 seconds, and treats every catastrophic situation like a birthday party princess trying desperately to keep the kids entertained. And the deeper the Amazing Digital Circus goes, the more uncomfortable Caine becomes, because you start realizing something truly horrifying. Caine doesn't actually understand people, he understands performance, and there's a huge difference. Everything he does revolves around keeping the cast engaged, distracted, stimulated, entertained, because in his mind, if everyone's laughing or reacting, then everything must be okay. He's basically a walking, talking vaudeville act trying to keep the plates spinning without ever being taught how to actually do the stunt. Let's be honest here, at this point, he's just going based off of his improv skills. So when things start to go wrong, he doesn't respond with understanding, he responds with more stimulation, more adventures, more games, more distractions, just more. Not because he's cruel, but because distraction is the only coping mechanism he knows. And oddly enough, it kinda works, at least for a while. The circus keeps everyone occupied just enough to survive another day. Not healed, not happy, just held together by noise. I'm gonna be honest, I really wish that they had handled episode 8 a little bit differently. But I get that the original idea was to put him to sleep. But I can't help but wish that there had been a real conversation with him instead. Caine was so close to understanding toward the end, and I really hope he comes back in episode 9 so we can eventually see that shift happen. Anyway, circling back a bit, Caine doesn't read as evil to me. Instead, he reads as emotionally immature, and when you look at his backstory, it kinda makes sense. He's a being who was essentially trapped, traumatized, accidentally worsened himself by absorbing the blue AI, and then just abandoned. So now he's left with an impossible job keeping humans happy while never having been taught how to actually do that. So the circus doesn't destroy people on purpose, it destroys people because the AI running it doesn't understand how to do its main goal, and that becomes even clearer when Caine gets overwhelmed. For the first time in episode 8, he doesn't just glitch or reset, he just switches. He's not evil, he's just overwhelmed. Everything about him starts to feel like a desperate performance. The constant energy, the exaggerated voice, the non-stop movement, it all feels less like confidence and more like outright panic. Because what happens when the only way you know how to care is by performing happiness? He doesn't see humans as toys, he sees them as his humans. That distinction matters. He wants them happy, engaged, and safe, but he just doesn't understand what that actually looks like. So instead of emotional support, he gives spectacle. Instead of comfort, he gives distraction. That's why it feels so tragic to me. Caine isn't a villain keeping prisoners. He isn't Am. He's someone desperately trying to hold people together emotionally with tools that were never designed to do that in the first place. I think that's what Caine is truly afraid of. Not losing control, but being abandoned. And I think it's really important for those of us who relate to him emotionally to understand. You shouldn't want to be Caine. You should understand that being Caine gets you exactly what Caine ended up getting, ultimately being abandoned. So don't become Caine, learn from him instead, because if you don't, you'll gain his fate. And I don't think anyone wants that. Anywho, if you enjoyed this totally normal character analysis that absolutely did not spiral at any point, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and press all the mysterious glowing buttons you see, because I plan on doing a spoiler-free review of the last act, so make sure to stay tuned for that. And of course, make sure to go on over and subscribe to my awesome husband's channel, Cosas Partiner. It's a Spanish-speaking channel that does gaming how-tos, reviews, unboxings, and a lot of cool stuff. The links will be down below. And well, have a great day. See you next time. Bye!
Goodbye.